Dinner was supposed to be quiet that night. The clinking of forks against plates, the soft hum of the ceiling fan, and the dim golden glow of the dining room light usually gave me peace. After losing my husband only a year ago, meals had become more about silence than conversation. My daughter, Anna, had come over unexpectedly, and although I welcomed her company, something about her presence felt different. She wasn't fidgeting with her food. She wasn't scrolling through her phone. She was waiting, her eyes locked on me in a way I hadn't seen since she was a teenager about to confess something. I should have noticed the tension in her shoulders. I should have noticed the smirk that kept tugging at her lips, a smirk that didn't match the sweetness of family dinner. But I didn't. Instead, I tried to play the gracious host, filling her glass with water and asking about her new job, her husband, and her children. She barely responded, only nodding. Then, as I cut into the roasted chicken, she leaned forward. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It was not playful, not conspiratorial. It was cold. She said, "We're moving into your house tomorrow. Pack your bags." For a moment, my fork froze in midair. The words hung heavy, suffocating me in that small dining room. I stared at her, wondering if I had misheard. But her eyes told me I hadn't. My own daughter. The little girl whose scraped knees I bandaged, the girl whose tears I wiped when boys broke her heart, the woman I helped raise after her father's death. She had just declared that my home, my sanctuary, was no longer mine. I felt the walls close in. My chest tightened. I wanted to ask why, but the words stuck in my throat. She sat back in her chair, calm, confident, as if she had rehearsed this moment for months. "It's not personal, Mom," she added casually, stabbing a piece of potato with her fork. "It's just easier this way. You're living alone in this big place, and we need more space. You'll be fine somewhere smaller." The way she said it cut deeper than a knife. Easier for her. Not for me. I was to be displaced, discarded like old furniture that no longer matched the decor. I tried to compose myself, to breathe, to think clearly. "Anna," I whispered, my voice trembling, "this is my home. Your father and I built this life together. Every corner of this house holds memories. How can you?" She cut me off. Her tone sharpened, icy. "We're not asking, Mom. We're telling you. Tomorrow." It felt like betrayal on a scale I couldn't fathom. A mother spends her life nurturing, sacrificing, giving every ounce of her love, only to be told, at the dinner table, of all places, that she is being cast out. I searched her face for remorse, for any sign of hesitation, but all I saw was determination. Something had shifted in her long before tonight. This wasn't sudden. This was planned. "Who put this idea in your head?" I asked quietly, though my voice was cracking under the weight of disbelief. She smirked, almost proud. "Daniel and I have been talking about it for months. The kids need their own rooms, and this place is perfect. It's already in the family. It just makes sense. Don't fight it." The audacity. My home, reduced to a matter of convenience. My years of toil and sacrifice brushed aside as if I were a guest overstaying her welcome. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and remind her of who I was. But instead, I sat frozen, replaying her words in my head, over and over. "We're moving in tomorrow. Pack your bags." Dinner went on as if nothing had happened. She continued eating, humming softly, while my plate grew cold. My appetite had vanished. All I could taste was betrayal. Inside, I wrestled with questions. How could my daughter betray me like this? Was this Daniel's influence? Was she being manipulated? Or had I been blind to her selfishness all along? Every answer felt like another knife in my chest. When she finished her meal, she set down her fork and leaned across the table, her eyes narrowing. "Don't make this harder than it has to be, Mom. Tomorrow morning, we'll bring the truck. Just have your things ready." Her words were final, delivered like a sentence from a judge. She stood, smoothed her blouse, and kissed me lightly on the cheek as if she hadn't just shattered my world. The door closed behind her, and I sat there in the silence of the dining room, my body trembling. The clock ticked louder than ever. I felt small, abandoned in the very house I had filled with love. That night, sleep never came. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, every shadow reminding me of the life I had built, the sacrifices I had made. I thought of my husband, gone too soon, and wondered what he would say if he were here. Would he have believed our daughter could be so cruel? By morning, my mind was racing with possibilities. Should I pack? Should I refuse? Should I fight? When the sun rose, I made a cup of tea, my hands shaking as I poured. The phone buzzed. A text from Anna, "Don't forget, Mom. We'll be there by noon. Be ready." The pit in my stomach grew. Noon was only hours away. I walked through each room slowly, touching the walls, the furniture, the photographs. Memories flooded me, our wedding day framed in the hallway, Anna's baby pictures in the living room, my husband's favorite chair by the fireplace. Could I really leave it all behind? But another thought crept in, one that gave me pause. Maybe I didn't have to. Maybe I wasn't as powerless as Anna believed. Somewhere deep inside, a fire stirred. I wasn't ready to surrender. Not yet. What Anna didn't know was that I had a plan of my own, and by the time she and Daniel showed up with their truck, she would realize this house wasn't hers to take. Stay with me, because what happened next shocked even me, and it changed everything between us forever. The morning dragged on like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Every tick of the clock on the wall reminded me that noon was approaching, and with it, the storm my daughter had promised. I had not packed a single bag. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the photographs of my husband and me from years ago. His smile seemed to whisper courage into me, and I clung to it like a lifeline. At exactly 11 o'clock, the rumble of an engine broke the silence outside. My heart skipped a beat as I pulled back the curtain. A moving truck was parked in front of my house, its back door wide open like a hungry mouth ready to swallow everything I owned. And behind it, Daniel's car pulled up. I froze. They were early. The doorbell rang sharply, followed by heavy knocks. My hands trembled, but I forced myself to breathe. This was not the time to collapse. This was the time to stand. When I opened the door, Anna stood there, her expression unbothered, as though this were nothing more than a casual Sunday errand. Daniel loomed beside her, his arms crossed, a smug grin plastered across his face. "Good, you're awake," Anna said, brushing past me into the hallway without asking. Daniel followed, his shoes dragging dirt across the polished wooden floor. I shut the door behind them, my chest burning with anger. "What are you doing here so early?" I asked, my voice firmer than I expected. Daniel answered before she could. "Better to get started sooner. We'll need the whole day to move everything in." Everything in. The way he said it made my blood boil. My house, my life, my memories, reduced to cargo for their convenience. Anna clapped her hands, calling out as if she already owned the place. "All right, kids, come on in." The front door opened again, and my 2 grandchildren ran inside, their little feet stomping across the floorboards. My heart ached as I watched them race up the staircase, laughing, exploring rooms that had been mine for decades. They didn't know. They didn't understand. To them, this was just a fun game, a new adventure. Daniel began surveying the living room, pointing at furniture, speaking as though I wasn't even there. "The couch can stay, the dining table goes. That chair is ugly, toss it. The TV will be mounted there." I clenched my fists, fighting to hold my ground. "This is still my home," I said sharply. Anna turned to me, her face hard. "Mom, we talked about this. Don't make it difficult. You had a whole night to prepare. Did you pack?" I swallowed, shaking my head. "No. I'm not leaving." Her jaw tightened. Daniel chuckled, a sound dripping with arrogance. "You don't really have a choice," he said. "We've already arranged everything. Movers are coming in 2 hours. The weight of their betrayal hit me harder with every passing moment. My daughter, my flesh and blood, was orchestrating my exile, and her husband was commanding it like a general leading a conquest. But they had underestimated me. I forced a steady tone, though inside I was raging. I'm not leaving this house. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. Anna rolled her eyes. Mom, please, don't be dramatic. You're going to make this harder on yourself. Why fight us when it's already decided? I stepped closer, my voice sharper now. Decided by who? By you? By Daniel? This house belongs to me, and unless you drag me out by force, I'm not going anywhere. For the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. But Daniel's smirk returned quickly. Then maybe force is exactly what we'll use, he muttered. The words chilled me to the bone. Anna sighed heavily, pinching the bridge of her nose as though I were nothing more than an inconvenience. Mom, just go pack. Please. Don't ruin this for everyone. I stared at her, searching for a trace of the daughter I once knew, the girl who used to curl up beside me during thunderstorms, the girl who begged me to braid her hair before school. But she was gone. In her place stood a stranger, cold and unyielding. The grandchildren ran back downstairs, shouting about how they wanted the big bedroom upstairs. Anna smiled at them warmly, her voice softening. Yes, sweethearts, that room will be yours soon. Hearing her promise them my bedroom broke something inside me. My sanctuary, the place where I had cried myself to sleep after losing my husband, was being handed over like a prize in a contest. I could not let this happen. I walked into the kitchen, my mind racing. I needed time. I needed a plan. Daniel followed me, his presence heavy and suffocating. He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. Listen, lady, you're old, you're alone, and this house is wasted on you. Do yourself a favor and move out quietly. No one wants a scene. His words were poison, dripping into my veins. But instead of weakening me, they fueled a fire I didn't know I still had. I turned slowly, meeting his eyes with a glare I hadn't summoned in years. You may think I'm weak, Daniel, but you'll regret underestimating me. For the first time, his smirk faltered. Anna walked in, sensing the tension. Enough, she snapped. Mom, you're leaving. If you don't pack your bags, we'll do it for you. Either way, by tonight, this house will be ours. The finality in her words stabbed me, but deep inside, I knew the truth, this was not final. This was only the beginning. I didn't know how yet, but I would fight back. Not with screams, not with violence, but with something stronger. I had resources Anna didn't know about. Secrets Daniel couldn't imagine. And by the time this was over, they would wish they had never crossed me. As they busied themselves in the living room, making plans and speaking of their new home, I slipped upstairs into my bedroom. I locked the door behind me, leaned against it, and took a deep breath. On the nightstand, hidden in the drawer, was an envelope. Inside were documents my husband and I had kept safe for years. Deeds, accounts, and something else, something Anna had no idea existed. I opened it and held the papers in my trembling hands. A plan began to form in my mind, piece by piece. They thought I was powerless. They thought I was alone. But they were wrong. This was my house. My life. My legacy. And I would not let it be stolen. As I held the papers, a fire burned in my chest. They had declared war on me, but they didn't know the battlefield I was about to drag them onto. Stay with me, because when I revealed what was inside that envelope, everything shifted, and my daughter realized too late that she had underestimated her own mother. The lock clicked shut behind me as I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching the envelope like it was the last shield I had left. My heartbeat was wild, echoing in my ears, but beneath the storm of fear, there was something else, resolve. For too long I had been quiet, patient, forgiving. But now they had crossed into dangerous territory. Through the floorboards I could hear Daniel's booming voice in the living room. directing the movers who had just arrived. Heavy boots thudded against my wooden floors, strange voices echoing in my house, my sanctuary. The sound was suffocating. I rose and opened the envelope again, laying its contents out on the bed. Property deeds. Bank statements. And at the very bottom, folded neatly, was the letter my husband had left for me before he passed, a letter Anna had never seen. My throat tightened as I held it. His handwriting was strong and steady, a reminder of the man who had always believed in me. The letter read, "If you are reading this, it means life has taken a cruel turn. But remember, the house is yours, protected under the trust. No one, not even Anna, can take it unless you allow it. Do not be afraid to stand your ground." Tears blurred my vision. Protected under the trust. They thought I was defenseless, but they were about to learn how wrong they were. The banging downstairs grew louder. Anna's voice floated up the stairs. "Mom, open the door. Don't make this worse. We need to clear your room." I quickly tucked the papers back into the envelope and hid it beneath the mattress. My heart raced as I unlocked the door and stepped into the hallway. Anna stood there, her arms folded, Daniel just behind her with two movers waiting like vultures. "What are you hiding in there?" Daniel asked, narrowing his eyes. "Nothing you need to know," I answered firmly. Anna pushed past me into the room, scanning everything like a hawk. She opened drawers, peered into the closet, and even lifted the edge of my blanket. The audacity burned through me, but I remained calm. They would find nothing. Daniel leaned against the doorframe, smirking. "You know, resisting us just makes this uglier. You could leave peacefully. Instead, you're playing games." I stepped closer, my voice low but strong. "This is not a game, Daniel. This is my life. My home. And you're going to regret treating me like I'm disposable." Anna turned sharply, her face flushed. "Mom, stop talking like that. We're doing this for you. You can't live alone anymore. It's better if we take care of the house, the bills, everything. Why can't you just understand that?" I laughed bitterly. "Take care of the house? Or take the house for yourself? Don't lie to me, Anna. I raised you better than this." Her expression hardened, and for a moment, I saw guilt flicker across her face. But Daniel quickly stepped in, placing his hand on her shoulder. "Don't let her manipulate you," he sneered. "She's trying to make you feel guilty. Stay focused." Anna nodded slowly, and my heart broke all over again. My own daughter, being pulled further and further away from me by the man she called her husband. The movers began carrying boxes upstairs. Daniel barked orders, telling them which room to empty first. When they stepped into my bedroom, something inside me snapped. "Stop!" I shouted, my voice shaking the walls. Everyone froze. Even the movers looked uncertain. I stepped into the doorway, blocking their path. "No one touches my things. This is my house. And unless you drag me out with your own hands, nothing leaves this room." Anna looked at me, her eyes wide. For the first time, she seemed to realize I wasn't going to break. Daniel's face twisted with anger. "You're making a fool of yourself. You think some old piece of paper is going to stop us? This house is as good as ours." The words hit me like lightning. He knew. He knew there were papers, something binding, something that gave me power. My heart pounded, but I kept my face calm. "You'll find out soon enough," I said, my tone steady. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "Whatever you're hiding, it won't matter. Because by the end of today, you'll be out on the street." I looked him dead in the eyes. "We'll see." The movers hesitated, waiting for Daniel's signal. He finally waved them off with a curse, and they retreated downstairs. Anna stood in the middle of the room, torn between us. "Mom, please," she whispered, softer now. "Don't fight us. Just let go." I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. The rejection cut deep, but I didn't let her see my pain. I will not let go, I said quietly. And someday, you'll regret siding with him over your own mother. She turned away, tears glistening in her eyes, but Daniel pulled her out of the room before she could answer. When the door slammed behind them, I locked it again and collapsed onto the bed. My husband's letter still lay beneath the mattress, a silent reminder of my strength. They thought I was cornered, but I was only just beginning. I picked up the phone from my nightstand, my hand steady now. There was someone I needed to call, someone who would help me expose the truth, someone Anna and Daniel didn't expect. As the line rang, I whispered to myself, they think they're taking everything. But they're about to lose more than they ever imagined. The phone clicked as the person on the other end answered, and a voice I trusted filled my ear. Stay with me, because what I told them next turned the entire battle upside down, and for the first time, Anna realized she was standing on dangerous ground. The voice on the other end of the phone steadied me. It was Mr. Harris, my late husband's longtime attorney and our trusted family friend. I knew this day might come, he said gravely. Don't panic. Keep every document safe and do not, under any circumstance, sign anything they hand you. A rush of relief swept through me. At last, I wasn't alone. But just as I started to answer, a loud knock rattled my bedroom door. Daniel's voice boomed. Open up, or I'll make the movers break it down. I clutched the phone tighter. Mr. Harris's voice sharpened. Record everything. If they try to intimidate you, it will work in your favor. And remember, Anna cannot override the trust. Legally, you are untouchable. My strength returned. Thank you, I whispered before hanging up. The pounding on the door grew more violent. I rose, straightened my shoulders, and unlocked it. Daniel stormed in, Anna trailing behind him with eyes red from tears. He stopped short when he saw the determination in my face. You think you can stop this? He sneered. You're old, weak, and alone. That house is wasted on you. I met his glare head-on. You're wrong. And I'll prove it. Anna tugged at his arm, her voice trembling. Daniel, maybe we should slow down. Mom's not. Quiet, he snapped, silencing her. Then he thrust a stack of papers into my hands. Sign these. Right now. Transfer the deed, and this will all be easier. The weight of the papers felt heavier than stone. I knew what they were before I even glanced down. Property transfer documents. I let them fall to the floor. Daniel's jaw tightened. You're making this difficult. I took a step closer, my voice calm but sharp as a blade. And you're making a grave mistake. Anna gasped softly, but Daniel only smirked. Do you think some dusty lawyer is going to save you? You don't have the strength for this fight. I leaned in, lowering my voice so Anna could hear every word. Your problem, Daniel, is that you think strength comes from shouting and threats. Real strength comes from knowing the law, from having proof, and from never backing down. For the first time, his smirk faltered. I moved past him and went downstairs, leaving the papers scattered across my floor. The movers froze mid-step as I entered the living room, my presence silencing the chaos. I looked each one in the eye. If you so much as touch a single piece of furniture, I will call the police and press charges for trespassing. They exchanged uneasy glances. Daniel barked at them to continue, but hesitation rippled through the group. None of them wanted legal trouble. Slowly, one by one, they backed away toward the door. Daniel exploded. Cowards! Do as I say. But his authority crumbled in that moment. The movers shook their heads and muttered excuses before leaving, their footsteps fading down the porch steps. Now it was just the three of us, me, my daughter, and her husband, in the house. Anna's face was pale. Mom, please, why are you making this harder than it has to be? I turned to her, tears threatening to spill but my voice unwavering. Because this is my home, Anna. The home your father and I built with love, the home where I raised you. And I will not let it be stolen while I still draw breath. Her lips trembled, but Daniel yanked her away from me. She's manipulating you again. Can't you see it? I shook my head slowly. The only manipulation here is yours, Daniel. And you've dragged my daughter into it. He lunged toward me then, grabbing my wrist so tightly it made me cry out. Anna gasped and tried to pull him back, but he held on, his eyes blazing. Sign the papers. His words were like venom. And then, in that moment of rage, he made a critical mistake. He shouted so loudly, his words carried through the open window, "This house belongs to us now whether you like it or not." I wrenched free, holding my wrist. Outside, two neighbors who had paused on the sidewalk stared up at the scene, their faces stunned. Daniel realized too late what he'd done. His voice had betrayed him, and witnesses had heard everything. I walked to the front door, opened it wide, and called out, "Did you hear that?" The neighbors nodded, their expressions sympathetic. "Good," I said firmly. "Because if anything happens to me or this house, you know exactly who is responsible." Daniel cursed under his breath, his face red with fury. Anna pulled him back, her voice frantic. "Stop this. You're only making it worse." I closed the door and turned back to them. "Get out of my house." Anna looked torn, her eyes darting between me and her husband. Daniel started to argue, but I raised my hand, pointing toward the door. "Out. Now." For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then, to my shock, Anna gently took Daniel's arm and pulled him toward the exit. Her eyes brimmed with tears as she whispered, "Come on." He resisted, but eventually stormed outside, slamming the door behind him. Anna lingered a moment longer. She turned back, her face full of conflict. "Mom, I don't know what to believe anymore. But I'm scared." My heart broke at her words, but before I could answer, Daniel shouted from the driveway, calling her name. She flinched, gave me one last look, and ran after him. I sank into the nearest chair, trembling from head to toe. The house was silent again, but it felt fragile, like a storm had just passed but another loomed on the horizon. I whispered into the stillness, "This isn't over." Not by a long shot. That night, as I sat alone in the dim light, the phone rang again. Mr. Harris's voice was urgent. "You need to come to my office tomorrow morning. There's something about the trust Anna and Daniel don't know, and it changes everything." The next morning, I barely slept. My body was heavy, my chest tight, but determination fueled me. I dressed in silence, locked my purse with every document inside, and drove to Mr. Harris's office. The streets blurred past as my mind replayed Daniel's grip on my wrist, his demand to sign, and Anna's frightened whisper, "I don't know what to believe anymore." When I arrived, Mr. Harris himself was waiting at the door, something he never did. His face was grave. "Come in quickly," he urged. "We don't have much time." The air inside his office felt tense, as if even the walls were holding their breath. He motioned me to sit while he opened a large file. "Anna and Daniel think they're entitled to this house. But they don't understand the terms of your husband's trust." I leaned forward, my heart pounding. "Tell me." He slid a document across the desk. "Your husband foresaw the possibility of coercion or manipulation. The trust is ironclad. The house cannot be transferred without two signatures, yours and mine, as trustee. Unless you willingly agree, it is untouchable." Relief washed over me, but he held up his hand. "That's not all. There's another clause." He tapped the page. "If Anna is found to be complicit in coercion against you, she loses all rights to any inheritance." The words sank in like a stone. My own daughter stood to lose everything because of her husband's actions. My chest ached. "I don't want her punished," I whispered. "She's my daughter. She's being manipulated." Mr. Harris's eyes softened, but his tone stayed firm. "Sometimes the truth punishes those who allow themselves to be led astray. But you have a choice. If you can prove she was coerced, she might be spared." Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed outside the office door. We both turned as shouting filled the hallway. Then the door burst open. Daniel stormed in, dragging Anna by the arm. His face was twisted with rage. So this is where you've been hiding? Plotting against us with your pet lawyer? Anna's eyes darted between us, her face pale. Daniel, please, stop. He ignored her. His focus burned on me. You think a piece of paper will save you? I'll take what's mine, one way or another. Mr. Harris stood tall, his voice sharp. Mr. Daniels, you are trespassing. Leave now or I will call security. Daniel laughed bitterly. Security? You think I'm afraid of that? He reached into his coat pocket, and for one chilling second, I feared what he might pull out. But instead, he tossed a set of keys onto the desk. Recognize these? They're the spare keys to your house. Anna gave them to me. My heart shattered. I turned to my daughter, searching her eyes for denial, for protest, for anything that proved him wrong. But tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, I'm sorry, Mom. The room spun. Betrayal pierced deeper than any blade. The one person I hoped to protect had handed over the last shred of my security. Mr. Harris's voice cut through the haze. That was a grave mistake, Mrs. Daniels. You just admitted to facilitating illegal entry into this home. His pen scratched quickly across a page. This is evidence. Thank you for confirming it. Daniel's smirk faltered. You think a piece of paper scares me? I stood then, my voice shaking but resolute. It should. Because that paper means the police will be involved. And I will not hesitate to protect myself. For a moment, silence filled the room. Daniel's eyes flickered, weighing his options. Then he grabbed Anna's arm again and hissed, We're leaving. This isn't over. They stormed out, leaving the door rattling on its hinges. The silence that followed was deafening. My body trembled, every nerve screaming. Mr. Harris placed a hand on my shoulder. You must be ready. He will escalate. Desperate men always do. I swallowed hard. What do I do now? He leaned close, his voice low. You prepare. You secure your home. And you document every single thing they do. By the time this is over, Anna and Daniel will have destroyed themselves. That night, I returned home exhausted. I checked every lock twice, pulled the curtains tight, and placed a small recorder near the front door. Mr. Harris's words echoed in my mind, document everything. Hours passed in silence, until the dead of night. Then, footsteps outside. Slow, deliberate, crunching across the gravel. My breath caught. The doorknob rattled once, twice. I pressed my back against the wall, clutching my phone, my heart pounding so loud I thought it might give me away. Then, a voice hissed through the wood. Daniel. We're coming back tomorrow, and you won't stop us. Not this time. I hit record on my phone, capturing every word. He banged on the door, then silence. After a few moments, the sound of tires squealed down the street, leaving me in the dark. I sank to the floor, my body shaking uncontrollably. Fear and rage tangled inside me, but beneath it all was a fire that refused to die. The next morning, I handed the recording to Mr. Harris. He listened, his expression grim. This is good. It's proof. But be prepared, once he realizes he's cornered, he'll strike harder. That afternoon, as I sat in the living room, Anna appeared at the door. Her face was streaked with tears. She whispered, Mom, I need to tell you something about Daniel. But if he finds out I spoke to you, I don't know what he'll do to me. Anna stood in the doorway, trembling. Her eyes darted up and down the street before she finally stepped inside and closed the door. She looked thinner than I remembered, her face pale, her lips pressed tight as though she had been holding back words for days. I stayed still, watching her. My body screamed to rush forward and hug her, to protect her from whatever terror Daniel had carved into her life, but my anger held me rooted in place. This was the same daughter who had handed over my keys, who had watched me beg for dignity and turned away. Why are you here, Anna? My voice was sharp, cold, sharper than I intended, but I needed her to feel the weight of what she had done. Her chin quivered. Because I can't do this anymore, Mom. I can't lie for him. I can't watch him tear you apart. You don't know what he's planning next. The words stung like poison. I gestured toward the couch. Sit down. Start talking. She sank into the cushions, her hands twisting together nervously. Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered, Daniel doesn't just want the house. He wants everything. The savings, the car, the accounts Dad left behind. He's been talking to someone at the bank, trying to figure out how to force you to sign. She stopped, her voice breaking. I leaned forward. He's even what? She buried her face in her hands. He said if you don't give in, he'll make it look like you're unfit. He'll tell people you've lost your mind. He said he could get doctors to sign papers, claim you can't live alone. He wants to have you declared incompetent. The air left my lungs. My worst fear, spoken aloud. They weren't just trying to rob me. They were trying to erase me. For a moment, the room swam. Then I stood, anger blazing in my chest. So he wants to strip me of everything, my home, my dignity, my voice. And you've known all along. Anna shook her head violently. I didn't know how far he'd go until now. I was scared, Mom. You don't understand what he's like when no one's watching. He controls everything, my phone, my money, even who I see. He said if I didn't side with him, he'd leave me with nothing. I stared at her, torn between fury and pity. My daughter, trapped in a marriage with a man who had stolen her will. But could I trust her now, after all the betrayal? You need to choose, Anna, I said finally. My voice was steady, though my hands shook. You can stay chained to him, or you can stand with me. But you cannot have both. She looked at me with desperate eyes, then whispered, I want to help you. I'll testify if I have to. I'll tell Mr. Harris everything. Before I could respond, a sharp knock rattled the door. Both of us froze. Another knock, louder this time. Then Daniel's voice, dripping with venom. Anna? I know you're in there. Open the door. Anna's face went white. She grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Please, don't let him in. If he finds me here, he'll. I pulled her behind me, my heart racing, and walked toward the door. I didn't open it. Instead, I shouted through the wood, leave, Daniel. You're not welcome here. He laughed, a chilling sound. You think you can keep her from me? You think you can keep anything from me? Open this door or I'll break it down. Anna whimpered behind me. I pressed my palm flat against the wood, steadying myself. If you break this door, you'll be arrested. I've already recorded your threats. The police will believe me, not you. Silence followed. Then a low growl. You're playing a dangerous game, old woman. I stood firm. So are you. After a long pause, footsteps retreated down the steps, then the roar of his engine split the air. Anna collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. You don't understand. He won't stop. He'll ruin both of us. I knelt beside her, holding her trembling hands. Then we ruin him first. But I need the truth from you, Anna. Every detail. No more secrets. She looked at me, tears shining in her eyes. He's meeting with someone tomorrow. At the bank. He's going to try to trick them into transferring assets. I don't know how, but he's desperate. If you go there, you'll see everything. The bank. The same place Daniel had first dragged me after the funeral, demanding my signature. My stomach churned. This was it. The battleground where everything could be lost or won. I called Mr. Harris immediately, my voice shaking as I relayed Anna's words. He was silent for a moment, then answered with steel in his voice. Meet me at the bank tomorrow morning. We'll be ready. That night, sleep was impossible. Anna lay in the guest room, restless, her cries muffled through the wall. I stared at the ceiling, every nerve alight, knowing tomorrow would decide everything. The next morning, we arrived at the bank together. Mr. Harris met us at the door, his eyes sharp, carrying a leather briefcase that looked heavier than usual. He nodded once. "Stay close. Say nothing unless I signal." Inside, Daniel was already there, leaning casually against the counter as though he owned the place. When his eyes fell on us, his smile twisted. Well. The whole family reunion. Perfect timing. He stepped toward me, spreading his arms wide. "Mother, today's the day you finally stop making this difficult." Mr. Harris placed himself between us. "If you have business here, it will be conducted legally. No intimidation, no coercion. Otherwise, you'll be escorted out." Daniel's smirk widened. He pulled a folder from his jacket and slapped it onto the counter. "I already have everything I need. This," he tapped the folder, "is a power of attorney. Signed by Anna. Which means I speak for her now." My stomach lurched. Anna gasped. "Daniel, I didn't know, that's not what I signed." He ignored her. "With her signature, we control the accounts. And once your mother finally cracks, everything will be ours." Mr. Harris calmly opened the folder, scanning the papers. Then he lifted his head and met Daniel's eyes. "Forgery. I can see it from here. Anna's signature doesn't match." Daniel's smile faltered for the first time. I stepped forward, my voice steady. "It's over, Daniel. You've exposed yourself." But he wasn't finished. His voice rose, drawing the attention of every teller, every customer in the bank. "This old woman is senile. She can't take care of herself. She doesn't know what she's signing. That house belongs to us, whether you like it or not." Gasps rippled through the lobby. People stared. The mask Daniel wore so carefully had begun to crack. Mr. Harris slammed his briefcase shut and straightened. "Enough. You've just committed fraud in front of witnesses. And I assure you, Daniel, the law will not be on your side." The room spun with noise, bank employees whispering, Anna crying, Daniel shouting. In the chaos, I felt something shift. For the first time, the power was no longer his. As security guards surrounded Daniel, pulling him back from the counter, he screamed at me across the room, "You think this is the end? You haven't seen what I'm capable of yet." And in that moment, I knew, this battle was only just beginning. The sound of Daniel's voice still echoed in my ears long after the security guards dragged him from the bank. His rage clung to the walls, his threats hanging heavy like smoke. For a brief moment, I thought it was over. I thought the nightmare had finally collapsed under the weight of truth. But deep down, I knew better. Mr. Harris leaned close as the guards escorted Daniel outside. His voice was low, sharp with warning. "Do not underestimate him. Men like that don't go quietly. He'll twist, he'll strike from another angle. You need to be prepared." I nodded, though my chest trembled. Across the lobby, Anna clung to my arm, her face streaked with tears. "Mom, he's not going to forgive me. He'll destroy me for turning on him." I wrapped my arm around her, pulling her close. "Then we stand together. He's not going to break us again." Mr. Harris placed a firm hand on my shoulder. "I'll file the fraud report today. By the time he tries anything else, we'll have the law on our side. But be ready. He's dangerous when cornered." Dangerous. The word rattled in my bones as we left the bank. When I got home, silence filled the rooms, but it wasn't peace, it was the silence of something waiting, lurking. I checked the locks twice. The shadows in the hallway stretched too long, the house no longer felt like mine. Anna paced behind me. What if he comes here tonight? What if he tries to get in? I forced my voice to stay steady. Then we call the police. We're not alone anymore. But as night fell, every creak of the floorboards, every groan of the wind sounded like Daniel's footsteps. The knock came just past midnight. 3 sharp raps against the door, too controlled, too deliberate. Anna froze in the hallway, her hands clutching her chest. "It's him," she whispered. I grabbed the phone, my fingers trembling, and called Mr. Harris. He answered on the second ring, his voice groggy but alert. "What's wrong?" "He's here. At my door." A pause. "Then steal. Do not open it. I'm calling the police right now. Keep the line open." Another knock. Louder. I forced myself to the door, my voice hard. "Leave, Daniel. You're not welcome." A laugh filtered through the wood, low and mocking. "Not welcome? This is my house. You're just squatting until I take what's mine." Anna let out a choked sob. Mr. Harris's voice crackled through the line. "Stay calm. The police are on their way." Daniel's tone shifted, colder now. "You think papers and lawyers will save you? You've made me look weak, and I don't forgive that. You'll wish you had signed when you had the chance." I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "They're coming for you, Daniel. Do yourself a favor and leave." The knock stopped. Silence stretched. Then footsteps faded down the walkway. But I knew better than to feel relief. This wasn't retreat. This was strategy. The police arrived minutes later, lights flashing across the windows. I filed the report with shaking hands, Anna by my side. The officers promised patrols, told us to lock everything, to call immediately if he returned. But their words did little to ease the tension crawling under my skin. After they left, Anna collapsed onto the couch, whispering, "He'll find another way. He always does." She wasn't wrong. The next morning, a letter slid under the door. No envelope, no stamp, just a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was Daniel's. "If you want peace, meet me tomorrow. Noon. The old cabin by the lake. Come alone. Or the world will learn every secret you've ever tried to hide." My blood ran cold. Anna's hand shook as she read it. "You can't go. It's a trap." I took the paper from her, folding it carefully. "It's more than that. He's desperate. He thinks intimidation will finish what lies and fraud couldn't. But if I don't face him, he'll keep pushing until there's nothing left." Mr. Harris arrived within the hour. He read the note, his jaw tightening. "This is a calculated threat. He's testing your fear. If you ignore him, he escalates. If you meet him, he tries to control the narrative. Either way, he's spiraling. What do we do?" I asked. Mr. Harris leaned back, his eyes narrowing. "We let him believe he has the upper hand. You go. But not alone." Anna gasped. "No. You can't let her walk into that." Mr. Harris shook his head. "She won't be alone. I'll be there. And the police will be waiting nearby. The moment he makes a move, we'll have him." I nodded slowly. Fear churned in my stomach, but beneath it, something fiercer rose. Resolve. If this was the battlefield Daniel had chosen, then so be it. The next day, the lake was gray under a low sky, the cabin looming like a skeleton of forgotten summers. I remembered when my husband had taken me here once, long before Daniel slithered into our lives. It had been peaceful then. Now, it felt like a stage for something darker. Daniel stood on the porch, his figure sharp against the wood, arms crossed, a smile too wide, too confident. "You came," he drawled. "I knew you would." I stepped forward, Mr. Harris at my side, though Daniel's eyes only locked on me. "You've embarrassed me," he hissed. "In front of the bank, the community, even my wife. Do you know what that does to a man like me? It makes him dangerous." I stood straighter, refusing to flinch. "You did that to yourself. You forged papers, you lied, you threatened. You're not the victim here, Daniel." His smile faltered, but only for a moment. Then he pulled a small folder from his jacket and waved it in the air. This? This is your ruin. Signed statements, witnesses ready to swear you're unstable, unfit. All it takes is one judge, and your freedom is gone. My heart pounded. Could he really? Was this another bluff, or had he actually woven a web tight enough to strangle me? Mr. Harris's voice was calm, but firm. That folder won't save you, Daniel. In fact, it may be the very thing that buries you. Because I guarantee, everything in there is fabricated, and when it's exposed, you'll be facing charges you can't talk your way out of. For the first time, Daniel's composure cracked. His voice rose, desperate now. No, you don't understand. I have nothing left if this fails. I will not let her take everything from me. His hand trembled around the folder. His eyes burned with fury. And then he lunged forward. The sound of sirens pierced the air as Daniel surged toward me, the folder raised like a weapon. Officers burst from the trees, shouting commands, but in that split second, his eyes met mine, wild and unhinged. And I realized, he was ready to destroy everything, even himself, if it meant dragging me down with him. The air at the cabin fractured with the shrill cry of police sirens. Red and blue lights flashed against the dark water, scattering across the trees like shards of broken glass. Daniel's body lunged toward me, the folder raised in his trembling hand, his face twisted with a desperation I had never seen before. For one breathless second, time stopped. I could see the whites of his eyes, the tension in his jaw, the rage boiling through him. And then the chaos erupted. Drop it. Now, an officer bellowed as half a dozen uniforms swarmed from the woods. Daniel froze, his chest heaving, his gaze locked on mine. I could feel the heat of his anger, the madness that had consumed him. Instead of lowering the folder, he shouted, his voice ragged. She ruined me. She turned my own wife against me. This was supposed to be mine. The words pierced me like knives, but I didn't flinch. I stood taller, letting every ounce of fear harden into steel. You ruined yourself, Daniel, I said, my voice clear enough for every officer, every camera, every witness to hear. And you will not take me down with you. His hand shook, the folder twitching like a live wire. For a heartbeat, I thought he might strike anyway, consequences be damned. Then the officers closed in, their weapons drawn. Last warning. Drop it. The sound of papers tearing cut through the night. Daniel ripped the folder open, scattering its contents into the wind. Pages flew into the air like broken feathers, some landing in the mud, others drifting out over the lake. If I go down, I take the truth with me, he screamed. The officers tackled him to the ground before he could tear the last of it. His body hit the porch with a sickening thud, his shouts muffled as they forced his arms behind his back and snapped cold steel cuffs onto his wrists. Anna rushed to my side, trembling as she clutched my hand. Mom, it's over. He's caught. He can't hurt us anymore. But I couldn't shake the unease curling in my stomach. The papers scattered across the ground weren't just scraps of lies. Some were real. Some held pieces of our family, twisted truths mixed with venomous fabrications. And I knew Daniel had only given us a glimpse of the chaos he had prepared. The police loaded him into the back of a cruiser. His eyes found mine through the glass, and even behind bars, his stare burned with hatred. He mouthed a single phrase before the car pulled away. This isn't finished. A chill gripped my spine. Hours later, back at my house, the unease remained. Anna hovered in the kitchen, making tea she didn't drink, her hands shaking too much to hold the cup steady. I thought I could handle him, she whispered. I thought maybe deep down he loved me. But tonight, I saw something else. Something dangerous. I pulled her into my arms. You saw the truth. And now you'll never doubt it again. But even as I spoke, a knock rattled the front door. My breath caught in my throat. Anna clutched my arm. No. It can't be. Mr. Harris's voice called softly from outside. It's me. Open up. Relief flooded me. I unlocked the door and let him in. He carried a stack of damp papers in his hands, the remnants of Daniel's folder. "We recovered what we could," he said, spreading them across the table. "Most of it is fabricated, false witness statements, forged medical records. But look at this." He slid a single page toward me. My breath caught. It was a letter, written in my husband's hand, dated just months before he died. A letter I had never seen. "If anything happens to me, watch Daniel closely. He will stop at nothing to control what isn't his." Tears blurred my vision. My husband had known. He had seen the darkness in Daniel before any of us. And he had tried to warn me. Anna's voice cracked. "Mom, what if Daniel didn't just take advantage of Dad's death? What if he helped it along?" The room tilted. The possibility I had never dared to consider clawed at me now, leaving me breathless. Mr. Harris's jaw tightened. "I'll push for a full investigation. If your husband suspected foul play, and if Daniel had motive, then this is more than fraud. This is something much darker." The words settled like a stone in my chest. The next day, the news exploded. Footage of Daniel's arrest at the cabin ran on every channel, his shouts broadcast across the city. Neighbors stopped me on the street, some offering pity, others whispering behind their hands. But the story wasn't mine anymore. It was out in the world, twisted, magnified, consumed by strangers who had no idea of the battles fought behind closed doors. That night, the phone rang. I answered on instinct, my heart lurching when I heard his voice. "Daniel." "Enjoying the show," he hissed from the other end. "They may have locked me in a cell, but I still have people on the outside. People who believe me. You think you've won, but you've only woken a storm." "Stop calling me," I said, my voice trembling but steady. He laughed, low and cold. "You'll never silence me. And the next time, you won't even see it coming." The line went dead. Anna gripped my arm, her face pale. "How did he call?" "He's supposed to be in jail." Mr. Harris's answer was grim. "Someone's helping him. He still has strings to pull." And in that moment, I understood the truth. The battle wasn't over. Daniel wasn't finished. As I stood by the window that night, watching the shadows shift across the lawn, I realized I was no longer fighting just for my house, my freedom, or even my life. I was fighting against a man who had built his existence on lies, manipulation, and control, and he wasn't going to stop until one of us was destroyed. And somewhere in the back of my mind, my husband's final letter echoed like a warning bell. "Watch Daniel closely. He will stop at nothing." The night after Daniel's arrest stretched on endlessly, every shadow across the house creeping like an enemy. I had bolted the doors, checked the windows twice, and left a light burning in every room, yet the unease in my chest refused to ease. Anna sat curled on the sofa, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, her eyes darting every time the wind rattled the glass. Neither of us spoke much, both of us haunted by Daniel's phone call from jail. How had he managed to reach us? Who was helping him? At last, exhaustion pressed down on me, and I stumbled upstairs, forcing myself to rest. I drifted into a shallow sleep filled with fragments of my husband's voice, warning me again and again, "Watch Daniel closely. He will stop at nothing." The next morning, I awoke to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. My heart thudded as I reached for it. A message flashed across the screen, unknown number, no name attached. "You should have signed everything when you had the chance. Now you'll pay in ways you never imagined." I sat upright, my stomach churning. Another message followed almost instantly. "Check your backyard." My blood ran cold. I flew down the stairs, Anna right behind me. We yanked open the back door, stepping into the early dawn mist. There, nailed to the old oak tree, was a single sheet of paper. My husband's handwriting again. Only this time, the letter was torn, smeared, and defiled with Daniel's scrawl across the bottom, "Lies. She forged this." Anna gasped. "He's turning Dad's warning against you. He's trying to make it look like you're the fraud. Mr. Harris arrived minutes later, his face grim as he examined the note. He has allies outside. Someone planted this here for him. It's not just Daniel you're fighting now, it's the network he's built. A chill swept through me. Daniel had always been charming, manipulative. I had underestimated just how many people he had pulled into his web. That afternoon, the police called. Against every plea, Daniel had posted bail. I felt the ground shift beneath me. Anna clutched my hand. How? After everything he did, how could anyone bail him out? Mr. Harris's expression was hard. Money talks. And someone with resources just made sure he's back on the streets. We'll keep watch, but you need to be prepared. He's going to come for you harder than before. The weight of those words pressed on me until I could hardly breathe. That night, the knock came again. Not gentle this time. A hard, booming pound against the front door. Anna and I froze, fear slamming into us like a wave. Stay behind me, I whispered. I approached the door slowly, heart hammering. Through the peephole, I saw him. Daniel. Standing in the porch light, a twisted smile cutting across his face. I almost couldn't believe it, but there he was, free, confident, and more dangerous than ever. Open the door, Mother, he called, his voice smooth, mocking. Or do I need to remind you this house isn't really yours? Anna's voice shook. Don't let him in. But I already knew what had to happen. If I kept running, if I kept hiding, he would destroy us. The battle had to end, one way or another. I unlocked the door. Daniel stepped inside, his eyes sweeping across the room, cold and calculating. Still clinging to your little kingdom, I see. But kingdoms fall. And queens are dethroned. You don't belong here, I said firmly. This is my home, not yours. He laughed softly. You think that piece of paper from Dad means anything? You forged it. The world is going to see you for what you really are. Anna's voice cracked. Stop lying, Daniel. Dad knew exactly what you were capable of. He warned us. Daniel's face hardened, rage flickering in his eyes. Your precious father was a fool. He never understood me. He always favored you, Mother. And you, he jabbed a finger at me. You treated me like a child long after I was grown. Do you know how that feels? To be belittled, dismissed, treated as if I was never enough? This house was supposed to be mine. Everything was supposed to be mine. His words thundered through the room, but I refused to let them break me. You were my son, I said quietly. I gave you everything I could. And still, you chose greed over family. That is on you, not me. For a moment, his mask slipped. Pain flickered in his eyes. But just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by something darker. Then you leave me no choice, he whispered. From his jacket, he pulled another folder. Thicker this time, bound tightly with string. He slammed it on the table. These are the testimonies, the statements, the proof. When I'm done, the courts won't just take the house, they'll take your freedom. You'll die in prison, and I'll watch from your porch. Anna lunged for the folder, but Daniel shoved her back. Touch it, and you'll regret it, he snarled. I stepped forward, standing between them. No more threats, Daniel. If you think you can scare me, you're wrong. I have lived through loss greater than you can imagine. You will not break me. But even as I spoke, my pulse raced. What was inside that folder? What lies had he prepared this time? Daniel leaned close, his voice a venomous hiss. You can't win, Mother. You think the police will protect you? They already doubt you. One whisper of forgery, and your reputation is gone. You'll be the fraud. Not me. The words hit with brutal precision. He knew exactly where to strike. Then, without warning, he tore the folder open, scattering papers across the floor. Photos, signatures, letters, some real, some forged, all spilling into the room like poison. Anna scrambled to grab them, her voice breaking. "Mom, he's trying to bury us." Daniel towered above us, triumphant. "Go on, piece it together. See how the story looks when the world believes me." My heart pounded, but I forced myself to stand tall. "The truth will outlast your lies, Daniel. It always does." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. He hadn't expected defiance. But before he could react, flashing lights cut across the windows again. "Police cars." Anna gasped. "They're here." Daniel's expression twisted into fury. "You called them? Again?" I didn't answer. The pounding on the door was immediate. "Open up. Police." Daniel's rage erupted. He grabbed as many papers as he could, clutching them against his chest. "This isn't over, Mother. You haven't seen what I'm capable of yet." He darted through the back door just as officers stormed the front. Shouts erupted, the chase spilling into the night. Anna collapsed into my arms, sobbing. "When will it end? He's destroying us piece by piece." I held her tightly, my own tears threatening. "It will end when the truth destroys him first." But deep inside, I knew the next confrontation would not be about papers or property. It would be about survival. That night, as silence fell once more, I sat by the window clutching my husband's letter. His words rang louder than ever, "He will stop at nothing." And I realized Daniel had crossed the final line. He wasn't fighting for a house anymore. He was fighting for domination, for revenge, for destruction. The next battle would decide everything. And I knew with a bone-deep certainty, it was going to come soon. The night Daniel escaped the police raid, I knew there would be no peace until one of us was destroyed. His obsession had become bigger than greed. It was a war of blood, of identity, of survival. For 2 days, Anna and I lived in restless fear. Every creak in the house, every rustle outside, every shadow felt like Daniel's presence. We barely slept. Meals were untouched. Even Mr. Harris admitted quietly that the system was failing us. Daniel had influence. He had allies. He had lies wrapped in just enough truth to shake the strongest defense. But I had something he did not. The real truth. And my husband's final words. On the third evening, as the sky bled into twilight, I found myself standing in the attic once again, clutching the worn box of my husband's papers. Anna sat on the floor below me, cross-legged, eyes hollow from exhaustion. "There has to be something," she whispered. "Something Dad left behind that Daniel can't twist." My fingers brushed against a false bottom in the box I had never noticed before. Hard hammering, I pried it open. Inside lay a small leather-bound journal. My husband's handwriting filled the pages. The entries were devastatingly clear. Dates, meetings, conversations, all documenting Daniel's past schemes, debts, and manipulations. Proof undeniable and irrefutable. Anna's eyes widened as she read over my shoulder. This changes everything. Mom, this could bury him." But before I could answer, the power cut out. The house plunged into darkness. Anna screamed. My pulse spiked. I grabbed her hand, dragging her toward the stairs. "Stay close." Through the window, I saw the silhouette. Daniel. Standing in the yard, holding the power cable he had ripped from the box, his face lit faintly by the moonlight. He was smiling. We barricaded ourselves in the living room, candles flickering against the walls. My phone had no signal. The landline was dead. Then came his voice, muffled but chilling, echoing through the broken night. "Mother. Open the door. End this the easy way. Or I'll make you watch Anna suffer for your stubbornness." Anna clutched my arm, trembling. "He's going to kill us." I forced strength into my voice. "No. He wants power. He wants fear. That's all he has left." We cannot give it to him. But inside, my own terror clawed at me. The pounding began, rattling the door on its hinges. "Let me in!" Daniel roared. "This is mine. It has always been mine." The wood splintered. I knew it wouldn't hold. Anna and I fled upstairs, clutching the journal like a weapon. At the top of the stairs, I turned and shouted through the chaos. "You will never have this house, Daniel. You will never erase your father's truth." For a moment, silence. Then his laugh cut through the air. Low, dark, unhinged. "Oh, Mother. You think Dad's truth matters? He's dead. And once you're gone, your truth dies with you." The door shattered. Daniel stormed inside, his eyes wild, his movements jerky, desperate. He was no longer the polished manipulator. He was raw madness in human form. Anna screamed, backing into the hallway. I raised the journal, clutching it to my chest. "This is the end, Daniel. Tonight, everything you built on lies crumbles." He lunged for me. We collided, the journal tumbling across the floor. Pages scattered like falling leaves. Daniel's hands closed around my throat. His strength was terrifying. I gasped, struggling, clawing at his grip. Anna shrieked, hurling a vase against his back, but he barely flinched. "You ruined me," he spat, his eyes inches from mine. "You should have given me everything." My vision blurred. Darkness crept in at the edges. But through the haze, my husband's voice echoed in my mind, "He will stop at nothing. Be stronger than him." With the last of my strength, I kneed Daniel hard in the ribs. He staggered back, cursing. Anna seized the fallen journal and hurled it toward me. I caught it, clutching it tight. "This ends now," I screamed. Daniel charged again, but headlights suddenly cut across the windows. Tires screeched outside. Doors slammed. Shouts erupted. "Police!" Mr. Harris burst through the shattered doorway, officers at his back. "Step away from her, Daniel." For the first time, Daniel faltered. His eyes flicked between me, the journal, and the armed men flooding the house. "No," he howled. "This is mine. She forged it. It's all a lie." But his words no longer held weight. Not against the truth scattered across the floor. Not against the years of his father's meticulous record. He lunged again, but the officers were faster. They tackled him to the ground, wrenching his arms behind him as he thrashed and screamed. Anna collapsed into my arms, sobbing. "It's over, Mom. It's finally over." But I knew better. Daniel's voice still rang out, feral and venomous, as they dragged him away. "You can't destroy me. I'll be back. You'll see." The night swallowed his words, but the damage lingered like poison in the air. The following weeks blurred with hearings, statements, and endless questions. But the journal spoke louder than any testimony. The court listened. The world saw. Daniel was stripped of his lies, his manipulations laid bare. He was sentenced not just for fraud, but for threats, for violence, for destruction. And yet, sitting in that courtroom, watching him led away in chains, I felt no victory. Only grief. Grief for the boy he had once been. Grief for the man he chose to become. Back at the house, silence returned. The repairs began. Windows were fixed. Locks replaced. But some scars could never be mended. One evening, Anna found me sitting alone in the garden, staring at the oak tree where Daniel's threats had once been nailed. "Mom," she whispered, "are you all right?" I looked at her, my daughter, my last anchor in a storm that had nearly destroyed us. "We survived, Anna. That has to be enough." She sat beside me, resting her head on my shoulder. "Dad would be proud of you." Tears slipped down my cheeks. For the first time in months, they were not tears of fear. Weeks later, as autumn leaves began to fall, a letter arrived in the mail. The return address, the prison. Daniel's handwriting scrawled across the envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single sentence. "This isn't over." I folded the letter, locked it away, and whispered into the quiet night. "It is for me. And it always will be." Because in the end, Daniel had lost the only thing he ever truly needed, our family's love. And I had found the strength to finally let him go. The story of Daniel did not end with his sentence, or even with his threats. It ended with my choice, to live free, to protect Anna, and to honor the truth my husband left behind. And to anyone who has ever been betrayed by those they love most, I say this: sometimes, survival is the greatest revenge. The house is quiet again. Too quiet. Sometimes at night, I still hear the echoes of that dreadful dinner, the whisper that shattered everything: "We're moving into your house tomorrow, pack your bags." It plays in my head like a broken record. So much has happened since then. A funeral that should have united us only broke us further apart. A son who betrayed his mother. A daughter who forgot the meaning of family. And me, standing in the middle of the wreckage, clutching the fragments of a life I thought was safe. I thought the fight would end once Daniel was taken away. But the truth is, betrayal lingers long after the door slams shut on the guilty. The house no longer feels the same. Every corner holds a memory. The dinner table where Anna whispered her cruelty. The staircase where Daniel screamed his demands. The garden where I prayed for strength. Each space carries the weight of survival. Yet, I survived. There are days I feel guilt. Guilt for bringing children into this world who chose greed over love. Guilt for not seeing the signs earlier. Guilt for still remembering the laughter of their childhood while knowing the venom of their adulthood. But guilt is a heavy chain, and I cannot let it bind me forever. Anna still visits, sometimes. She comes with a softness now, eyes lowered, voice uncertain. She tries to rebuild bridges, tries to show that maybe she was swept up in Daniel's storm. I let her come. I let her sit in the kitchen and sip tea. But I do not forget. Trust, once broken, is not easily mended. She asks me if I will ever forgive her. I tell her forgiveness is not a gift to be demanded, but a journey. And I am still walking that path. As for Daniel, he writes letters from prison. Each one colder than the last. He blames me. He blames Anna. He blames our dead father. He blames the world. But never himself. I read them only once before locking them away. They are poison, and I refuse to drink them twice. The last one ended with words that should have chilled me: "This isn't over." But instead of fear, I felt something else. Pity. Because for Daniel, it will never be over. He will rot in his bitterness, trapped in his own hatred, long after the world has forgotten his name. And me? I will live. I tend the garden now. I plant flowers where the scars of his destruction once lay. I cook meals for myself, filling the table with warmth even if only for me. I walk through each room of this house, not as a victim, but as its rightful keeper. This home is mine. My husband's love built it. My resilience preserved it. My children's betrayal tried to break it, but failed. It stands, just as I do. Sometimes neighbors ask me how I survived it all. I tell them the truth, because I had to. Because giving up was never an option. Because strength does not come when life is kind, but when life is merciless. If you are watching this, if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, know this: your story does not end with their cruelty. It begins with your survival. And yet, I leave you with one thought, one question that still haunts me on quiet nights. If your own blood can whisper betrayal at your dinner table, then who can you ever truly trust? So I ask you, what would you have done if your daughter leaned close and whispered those words to you? Would you have packed your bags, surrendered your home, and walked away? Or would you have stood your ground as I did, risking everything for the truth? Tell me. Because stories like mine do not fade into silence, they grow louder when shared. And maybe, just maybe, by sharing them, we remind the world that betrayal is real, but so is survival.